Hey guys, this is Brianna. So today is September 5th, 2023, day 67 of the challenge. And yesterday, if you watched my video, I mentioned that I was going to have a meeting with an investor. So he and I actually did meet today. He was fantastic. It was great getting to meet him. I actually got a chance to meet his wife. But yeah, he and I talked a little bit about what he's looking for. He taught me a little bit about solo 401ks. And from my conversation with him, it sounds like he said that basically, if because he's in his 80s, and he said that if he had to go back, years, 50 years ago, he would have gotten as his solo 401k instead of his IRA. So that's something I'm going to be looking into. I think I've mentioned that before in a previous video where that's something that I need to get done. I had always kind of planned on getting both, but I don't know. Maybe he kind of convinced me a little bit, but we'll see. But yeah, as far as with him, and he talked to me about his son because he's in his 80s now, so he's more so looking, I guess more so. So he wants to invest in notes. So notes, if you don't know what that is, that's like mortgage notes, auto notes. It's the same concept, So what he essentially wants to do is actually buy existing notes, just to build up his wealth even further, just using it that way, allowing him to get a better interest rate. But anyway, he wants to get me connected with his son. I did not get to schedule a meeting with his son, so I was kind of bummed about that. I did attempt for it, but I didn't push too hard because he essentially just made mention that his son would literally just go to him and say, "Dad, do you think I should invest in this?" And if his dad says yes, his son's gonna do it. So I understood what he was saying from that, so I decided not to push there. But yeah, we are essentially doing two different things. But as far as his son goes, he made mention of the fact that his son right now he's getting a guaranteed 8% interest. Um, I forgot where he gets that from, but I think it's like somebody who accumulates money and basically takes a spread in between or something like that. So yeah, he's getting a guaranteed 8% now. So if I can get him 12%, that's an option that he would consider looking at as far as that goes. So I'll definitely be nurturing that relationship a little bit, so that way we can hopefully build up enough trust, so that way I can um, use him as a money resource for these projects that me and my partner are going to be doing. But aside from that, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about mindset. So if you happen to watch my or listen to my radio show or watched it on Sunday, I interviewed an amazing person by the name of Alan Diaz. Alan is someone who I met a couple months ago at a conference, and we've stayed in touch, and we will continue to stay in touch. And he's absolutely fantastic. And one of the things I really wanted to make a huge push on and touch on Sunday was the idea of mindset, because he ended up making a comment about how he used to be an extreme pessimist, but now he's an extreme optimist. And so when he said that he used to be a pessimist, I was like, really? Like, it just does not seem at all possible for him. But just knowing that that's where he came from. So, I was asking him questions about, okay, so how did your mind shift, and, what was the things that you focused on, and how did you get yourself to make that transition? And he did end up making a comment about how it was just a decision, and he mentioned that a couple times in the show too. And yeah, even though like you can make that decision, but you also have to be conscious, con- you know, aware of what you're saying and things like that, just so that way you can make sure to correct those bad behaviors. But what made me even bring this up even today is because I thought about it earlier, because there's this gentleman that I follow. His name is Eddie Pinero, and I consider him like an inspirational type of a speaker. So he talks about a lot of great things as it pertains to mindset, actually. And if you're someone who's into self development and self improvement, growth, he's definitely someone you would want to follow. I try to listen to him probably as often as I can, but generally when I'm driving, listening to his words of wisdom, because he has a lot of good advice Very good to listen to, but something that there was something that he said today that made me think about mindset a little bit. And then it also made me think of Les Brown. So Les Brown has said, I mean, he says a lot of things, and I love this guy. If you don't know who he is, you should look him up too. He's really funny, but his backstory is actually really impressive and interesting as well. But he says, don't wish, okay, no. Eddie Pinero was the one who said, don't wish things were better, or don't wish things were different, wish you were better. And that was the thing that Eddie had said. And I was like, it's about perspective, right? As far as, I think sometimes, at least for me, I can get caught up with, oh, dang, I wish, something happened a little bit different. But, looking at it from the perspective of taking control and focusing on that, because I think sometimes, like, it's hard to remember that we actually have a lot more control over our lives than we don't. So, for example, I've heard the statistic of, 90% of what happens in our life we actually have control over, only 10% we don't. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, well, shoot, if I have control over 90% of my life, then that means I can alter that life or my life however way I want. So then the next thing becomes, okay, well, and also the fact that we may not, even in the 10% of situations that we don't have control over, what we do have control over, 100% control over, is how we respond to those situations. So it's a matter of being aware, number one, of basically how we're reacting to things, so mindfulness, and also making sure that we're presenting ourselves in a way that we want to be presented. Because, and this is what Les Brown said, he said, when you open up your mouth, you tell the world who you are. And so I also heard that today, and I was like, man, that's a good point, And so it had me thinking, okay, so what is it that I'm saying when I talk to people that is showing people who I am? So I definitely believe that mindfulness is really important, and it's something that I know I need to focus on a little bit more. I did do a mindfulness challenge last month, but I have had a really hard time focusing with doing that mindfulness challenge. So it's something that I'm going to definitely have to do again. I know I didn't talk too much about it. I think at the beginning of last month I did talk about it a little bit, but because I couldn't get into it, I had a hard time with it. And I think that there's some growing that I need to do in order to be able to effectively do that. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm definitely going to have to do it again at some point, because I did like a lot of the daily tasks that was set upon me. But it was just some of them, it was just really hard for me to focus. So I had a hard time with that. But anyway, I know this was a little bit longer than usual. Anyway, this is my journey to business and entrepreneurship, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow.